In Techno 2022, identified upcoming 7 sunrise sectors for knowledge dissemination for the benefit of students' community. This first session would take up e-vehicle now. With many sectors growing at an exponential rate, one such sector is electrical vehicle. We are getting ready to witness a revolution in automobile sector, and e-vehicle shall play a vital role. While finding path to innovation, we need to remove first the roadblocks, if any, like people pushing brake for any change, also needs to respect the environment, and innovation to be better than before. Challenges faced in today's e-vehicle design are such as limited driving range, high costs, battery issues, and other equipment-related constraints. We are in need of technological advancements in this field to solve the problem of reaching the people in vast numbers. We have 3 gem speakers in our panel and are the real subject experts in having acquired technology, and they will share their knowledge in this identified sunrise sector. Their knowledge in this sector is power, and their communication, I believe, will be fire. And now I call upon the first speaker, Mr. Ramesh Venkat, to address you. Thank you very much. Due to time constraint, we may be running a little faster. Please take care.
Next, please. Very good morning to all of you, and I thank IMO and Anna University for having given me the opportunity to talk briefly on the opportunities for the youth in electric vehicle. And my salutations to the respected dignitaries, students, and other representatives of organizations. Thank you. So in the paucity of time, I'd like to go quickly. Is the laptop okay? Okay. Next. Okay. Right, okay. Yeah, I'll quickly run through. This one, delivery today is on opportunities for the youth, especially engineers on the EV space. It takes a lot of water before we go green. And why this is the biggest year for electric vehicle in India today, I'll just quickly take you. My contents would elaborate on global perspective, Indian auto and EV industry, the electrical mobility as opportunity for the youth, and what are the guidance and what the industry requires for the groomed talent pool, which is the biggest threat. So on the market size, policy drivers, the big players, how does the industry tend to evolve? And let's look at what is the global perspective. The global electric vehicle market is valued at almost 162.34 billion during the year 2019. And it is moving up to almost 800 plus billion by 2027, which is an increase of about 22.6%. And if you look at the global scenario, Asia Pacific is a very, very large player, and we are right in the center, would be contributing a huge space for proliferation of electric vehicles, not only on the product per se, but would be generating a lot of employment as well. North America is estimated to reach 194 billion. I'm quickly moving to the next. So if you look at the market size, only about 7 17,000 electric cars were on the roads globally by, if you take about a decade ago or 12 years ago. And by 2020, this number had almost propelled or swelled to 7.2 million, which is close to 50% increase, which were only in China. And 9 countries had more than 100,000 electric cars on the road about less than half a decade ago. So, since we are all from Tamil Nadu, this had appeared in the leading daily 2-3 days ago. I had circled 2 important numbers. If you look at the electric vehicle proliferation, of course, the 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler, 4-wheelers are there. And I would like to particularly stress from the government, state government point of view on the Urbaser, which is the waste disposal management. They are one of the leaders today in, collecting all the garbages and wastes and segregating and disposing it through EVs. You must have seen so many vehicles, and it is that number which is given a thrust to Tamil Nadu. And if you look at, we are the 6th in the country with almost 2.93 crore electric vehicles that's moving only in Tamil Nadu. Yeah, just to give you a quick recap on the market size through the stock of various types of wheelers on electric vehicles. Cars, we have about 7.2 million. 2- and 3-wheelers contribute about a major chunk of the critical mass with about 350 million. Buses would contribute about 0.5 million, and commercial vehicles to 0.3 million. And this is only going to, it's a force multiplier in the days to come. Another thing that is happening, you would have seen a lot of incidents in, vehicles catching fire. It is, again, one of the key things that when we manufacture, we also need to take into consideration the temperature outside when the vehicles fly, which is fast changing. And globally, there's been an increase of the, global warming has been a major impact. Something is wrong. Sorry. So if you look at the Indian auto and the electric vehicle industry, the Indian automobile is expected to reach 300 billion. And there's a lot of people who've been contributing in terms of industry, governments. And the government of India aims to build a separate R&D to drive this and take it forward, because this is going to fuel a lot of growth in terms of industry, employment. Yeah, if you look at, I'd like to briefly dwell on, from the government perspective on the Indian context. So if the government's push is predominantly stressed upon targeting the shared mobility for electric vehicle with open order of more. They've created a lot of institutions, which I'll just quickly tell. EESL is an end-to-end entity created by the government of India to facilitate the growth of EV into energy efficient. They also fund a lot of entrepreneurs, engineers, startups to ensure that we bring in more electric vehicles for various applications and usage. And they mandated the percent of fleet as, every mobility service provider, be it government and private. Today you see a lot of people like gender diversity targets. They pitch upon conversion of a percentage of their fleet into electric vehicles. And I will also share a couple of slides on that. And there is a mandate of percentage of production when we produce vehicles, electric vehicles, through various schemes like performance-linked incentive, where the government also facilitates in both driving domestic consumption and exports. This has been imposing a lot of pressure on the last mile delivery, especially for e-commerce, which is one of the key proliferators of the electric vehicles today. Another thing is demand. If you look at, we have shared mobility, a lot of schemes, disincentivizing subsidies to fleet owners. And like I said, EESL has been looking at on the demand part of it from end to end. If you look at the supply, there's a lot of tax waivers, separate EV tariff, and single homologation. And they've also brought in policies such as FAME 1, 2, which will be driving this. And Niti Aayog from the government has been the brain behind driving this through various state and central governments. This is one of the key important slides I would like to dwell upon. If you look at the opportunities for electric vehicle, for young engineers, for the youth in the country, according to the Ministry of Skill Development, morning we heard, respectable speakers talk about skill development, education, which is become as one ministry today. So there are a lot of initiatives. I represent Logistics Sector Skill Council, where we skill train our core competency into skill training. We are the bridge between the government, industry and academia, where we skill train, educate people, and also formalize education in skill training people in 12 logistics subsectors like warehousing, transportation, multimodal, air, road, rail, and sea. Then predominantly, last mile delivery and warehousing, logistic park, fulfillment centers is a place where we skill lakhs of youth in the country. So the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship especially have been driving a lot of programs on skill training youth in the country, and it is expected to create about 5 crore jobs. The Indian Labour Organization, which Mr. Sunilji spoke on, we have NCS, we have a new portal called Atmanirbhar, skilling for employee, employer, management, and together the industry, the government, the academia. So like Mr. Anil Sahasrabudheji's remarked, there is a strong collaboration and partnership that is being created today, which would create nothing less than 38 lakh jobs by 2030 only for electric vehicles. As we speak, I'd like to also denote that we have a job requirement or a demand for e-vehicles and last mile delivery people for 8.67 lakh jobs in India by the e-commerce sector and logistics industry alone. So another thing that the challenge that we face is, one end we have the demand, another end the supply. And demand exceeds the supply, and we need to now percolate and disseminate into more rural, space, collaborating with various academic institutions, the government, to bridge the gap, generate employment. And if you look at the employable engineers per se, these are the 4-5 pointers where there is enough opportunity for the employable engineers to pivot, which is on the scientific research, designing and development, manufacturing, vehicle maintenance, infrastructure development like charging, etc. Several indirect jobs for electrical, chemical, mineral mining, material engineers are in galore. By 2025, you see the space employing a lot of youth in the country. The EV industry will create over 10 million jobs at various domains, as mentioned above, which will, especially for the engineers, where designing, testing, manufacturing, wiring, charging infrastructure, sales and service, designing the existing infrastructure, battery technologies, battery chemistries, especially in logistic e-commerce sector, health and pharma, retail, and very many more industries which would create employments. See, there are, in fact, this program organized by IMO and Anna University has been dwelling upon the 7 champions, sectors that they have identified, though I've mentioned just about 4 or 5 here. The top champion sectors which has been generating a lot of job, especially post-pandemic, are these 4 or 5 sectors which has actually never slept. One is the agricultural sector, including the food processing, FMCG, where they've been generating tremendous amount of employment, followed by the logistics and e-commerce, which has been on a big boom. Another sector that has been thriving is the IT, hardware and software, which includes all the fintech, aeronautical, then edtech, which has been on the boom because people have converted themselves into a lot of online education. Health and pharma, as you all know, post-pandemic, there's been on a demand, especially with COVID, the hospitals. There's a huge amount of employment that is required for ambulance, a lot of electric vehicles within hospitals. So this is one space which will again see a lot of boom with EV. EV, electric vehicle, tops the chart today, along with renewable energy and a lot of green initiatives that goes symbiotic with electric vehicles. So there are, I would segregate them into about 3 categories. Like I earlier said, we are a bridge between the government, industry and academia. From the academia standpoint, most of the states such as Kerala, Telangana, Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu have redesigned and engineered a lot of content curriculum syllabus in electric vehicles. And this is being launched shortly in polytechnics, ITIs, and various other higher educational institutions, thus facilitating EV adoption. In fact, recently there's an organization by name GIC, which are the German Chamber of Commerce. They've come together and partnered with 3-4 IITs and created content and curriculum for EVs to be launched in polytechnics and ITIs that has been shared with us. As we've been formalizing education in logistics and e-commerce, we will be launching this in various ITI. We've already started sensitization and familiarization programs on logistic, education in polytechnics, ITIs, engineering colleges, where we would be launching several logistic technicians course, in-plant, logistics course for a lot of automotive manufacturers, electronic manufacturers. So the journey is already begun, which was never there a decade or less than half a decade ago. Second part is the industry. Industry, I mean, there are several thousands and lakhs of logistic and e-commerce companies which have been asking us for employable workforce in various job roles such as warehousing, fulfillment centers, last mile delivery, cold chain, express and courier. And as you are all aware, one of the key infrastructural development program announced by Honorable Prime Minister is the Gati Shakti program, where the government would be spending the largest amount of 1,68,000 crores in creating and modernizing various port infrastructures, seaport, airport, road, rail. And now for EVs, we also have the drones that has been coming in from various engineering colleges, polytechnics. And this would be another mode of EVs which would post-regularization and bringing in compliances from the government would take off in a very, very big way. And one of the speakers did mention on the content creation, curriculum and syllabus. These were never there before. I think now there are a lot of organizations who are stepping forward, and many domestic and global players are coming forward And there are a lot of developmental banks like World Bank, KfW from Germany, ADB, Asian Development Bank, then GIZ, a German Chamber of Commerce, who are coming forward to drive these green initiatives for skilling and placement of educated youth in the country, which has never been there. And if you look at the job that is going to be created for electric vehicles, it is mostly comes under the user, maintainer and operator category, especially for the e-commerce, for 2-, 3-wheeler. Now we have another big ask coming in from the trucks and buses segment, where Tata Motors, I had the opportunity to visit their EV plant at Dharwad, where they are asking us to skill train 7,000 EV bus and truck drivers, which was never there in the country. There is no content creation. So we've been joining with the industry, co-creating content with certification. So there's a new journey that is beginning that LSC has embarked. And many a speaker in the morning spoke about apprenticeship, entrepreneurship, internship. So these are fantastic and phenomenal opportunities that engineers have today, which maybe 3, 4, 5 years it was not there. So I think it is time that we collaborate, partner for this initiative and progress. I just have a few more slides before I conclude. So EV and e-com is a super combo that is happening both globally and in India. On the right side, you find a lot of big brands. Some of them are unicorns, which are driving this industry pretty big. Like I earlier said, the demand and supply gap is growing wider by the day. And if you look at the new emerging problem is the manpower, which is it is not a ready-made manpower. It is not built to suit. We have been collaborating with various institutions, industry, government, academia, to stitch it in the way the industry actually demands. So I'm skipping this. One point I would like to make is building 16 million vehicles requires employment about 9 million. And this comes in from various quarters. If you look at engineers, it's a huge opportunities where many industries, including steel, iron, aluminum, glass, plastics, carpeting, textile, computer chips, rubber, and various kinds of materials. These are all huge opportunities for engineers to, explore. So these are the some of the key players who are now dwelling on EVs, and there are newer models that is being created today. See, this is a snapshot of a very recent event, like Mr. Raghunathan said, that this such program of bringing government, industry, academia together, and we would be moving from state to state and making it national. This was a similar such program where engineers and youth were rewarded for electric vehicles in Telangana just about a fortnight ago. So the journey is already started. So I conclude by submitting that transition to EVs is pretty much inevitable and is also irreversible phenomena. So I think it's time for us to get ourselves charged for the future. Thank you so much, and I'll be happy to take questions by end of the session. Thank you so much.
So, morning everyone. Before I start, I think I don't have my PPTs here yet, but it's just been a humble experience standing in front of you among such dignified, dignitaries off the stage, on the stage. And let me just start off by talking about what is it that I wanted to talk about. So my experience, my whole experience has been with, I would say, the cross-domain platforms. So I work with areas where multiple domains come together, and my talk today was supposed to be on the same. I wanted to share with the students primarily about what exactly you need to start getting a job in the EV industry. So pretty much most of what I wanted to talk, people have already spoken about. You know there is a lot of jobs, but have you ever thought what exactly you need to get into the jobs? So if this is a question on your mind, let me probably start by asking you this question. Can you name one single system in a car, right? Take a car which costs about 40 or 50 lakhs, or take an electric vehicle which is coming out these days, maybe a MG ZS EV or something. We typically consider an automobile to be a part of the mechanical sciences. So that is something which a mechanical engineer or an automotive engineer is supposed to work on. But can you name one single system? I'm not meaning a part, but a system which is purely mechanical, right? Can you name one single system where there is no electronics, there is no software driving it? If you could name one single system, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you took the next couple of hours and you still can't come up with anything. Because take even the transmission, right? Automatic transmission, you have control units for it. You have your seats, you have control units. You have airbags, you have tire pressure monitoring systems even in the rims and tires. So what exactly are we looking at? What is the future that you're looking at? If you still think a car is something which a mechanical engineer can just go build, I think we are really like, that is where we are falling behind when it comes to what the students in the universities abroad learn and how we are basically looking at the whole thing. So my insistence, my experience has been this. Whenever you're looking at an R&D today, you're looking at developing a car, or leave out a car, let's leave out automobiles, let's leave out electric vehicles. Let's look at any particular system. Take a medical equipment, take an industrial control system, you look at your ship engines, marine engines, pretty much anything. These are all areas where there is at least 3 different domains which are coming together. You have your mechanical sciences. I'm not saying mechanical engineers can't be there. You have mechanical sciences. But you also have an increasing amount of electronics coming inside. You have an increasing amount of software systems which is optimizing the operation of this whole thing. Which means, as engineers, if you're looking at jobs in EV sector, what you need to do is identify 2 or 3 different domains. I know you are from mechanical sciences or you're from electrical sciences. You cannot just be complacent with what you have learned in your curriculum, because we are still yet to reach a point where we are on par with the industry as far as the curriculum comes. You need to make sure you are learning 3 different domains. I'm not asking you to go learn C++, Java, no, it's not like that. But you take an electric car. You have a motor, you have a gearbox, you need to understand how that works. That's basically domain knowledge. That's what we are learning in our engineering. You need to learn how these are controlled. You need to know what controllers get into it, what is calibration, what is control systems. Get onto YouTube, there's quite a lot of videos on that. And finally, you need to also know what is the software that's basically running it, right? And the moment you start looking at all of these 3 domains, I think that's basically when you start linking yourself to whatever job descriptions or whatever jobs are being posted. I had a nice PPT made where I was kind of like dissecting a job description and showing it, but unfortunately it is not up here. But that's basically what I wanted to convey. There are 3 different domains. These domains are coming together, and that's where electric vehicles are operating. So if you are looking at jobs, it is imperative that you start looking at that. And the second most important thing here is that we cannot be just happy with the fact that we've got a certificate. Right? A certificate basically does not mean anything, because an industry is not recruiting you for your knowledge. So we'll have to understand there is a difference between knowledge and skills. So if you want to showcase your skills, I think that is when like all the initiatives by the government and a lot of sector development councils, that's where it comes in. You need to start looking very seriously at doing meaningful internships and meaningful projects. So I don't mean you doing a project on a temperature-controlled motor, or I mean, we are way beyond that point where we have some simple electronics involved or something like that. You'll have to start working on some meaningful projects so that when you put that on your resume, you go sit for your interview or something, the interviewer knows you have these skills. And believe me, it is the skills which get you placed. It's not going to be your knowledge. It's not going to be a certificate. Of course, that helps. But more importantly, it's the skills and how you exhibit themselves and how you sell yourself to the interviewers, which is probably going to matter a lot. So I'll just stop my talk with this and probably take whatever questions you have. I'll probably take it at the end of the session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. Thanks, IMA and Anna University for getting me here, and I'm really honored to be here. Among yourself, like I was one among you, so that's where I would like to start off. So it's like coming back to college again. So I want this session to be a little interactive. So just want to get to know how many mechanical engineers here? Electrical engineers? Computer science? Chemical? All other branches? Okay, so it's a mix. So why I asked you this question, so I would like to start from what are the opportunities in EVs and how is it different from a traditional automobile industry? So the first example that I would like to say is, so we have seen college students like you building an electric bike, but we have not seen a college student building a vehicle which is an IC engine which is in production. So we have seen large companies built out of campuses like yours coming into startup ecosystem. So this is where EV industry is completely different from our traditional automobile industry. So when I started my journey with EVs and when I was looking at what EV was, I didn't have an idea of what opportunities were available for EVs and what kind of skill sets are required for an engineer to be building an EV. So so the previous speaker put it rightly that you need to have a combination of skills, including mechanical, electronics, then software skills coming together. So that's exactly what I would like to talk about in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm just going deep into what kind of opportunities are there for each department, right? So if you take mechanical engineering, so initially it was, for automobile industry, it was just mechanical separate and electronic separate, and mostly in cars we talk about infotainment system, which we think that, okay, it is connected to the electronic side. But in EV, what it has done is, whatever you design is going to impact the electrical side of things, because if you design a vehicle which is heavy, your motor is going to get impacted, your battery is going to get impacted. So it's a system design that you need to start working with. So you have a lot of opportunities in vehicle dynamics. Reducing the weight of the vehicle is a very important factor in an EV. Maybe working with different materials. Material scientists are required in this particular industry. You need people who can work with a lot more softwares. Right? So not the traditional softwares, just like SolidWorks. A lot of simulations are required from the mechanical standpoint to understand how to design an optimal EV. So mechanical engineering itself, the skill sets required has changed completely. So there was a talk when EVs were coming to India that there are a lot of jobs that is going to get replaced, especially the traditional welding techniques. Yes, it is getting replaced, but at the same time, new techniques are coming. How do you weld two different metals? So this has been a question that has been asked in the industry. Still, there are not many people who can do this without a flaw. So this is something that we are getting into. We are getting into new techniques in mechanical engineering, new materials, and the ways of building chassis completely differently, right? So without welding, there are techniques which has evolved, like gluing the two metals together. So this is one technology that has evolved. So being mechanical engineers, you should start thinking innovative. You should start thinking about new technologies. And one good thing is there is no way you will be judged with your experience. So we have seen youngsters coming into this market or getting into EVs, disrupting the market. Right? So that's on the mechanical side. Coming to the electronic side, so where we talk about battery management system as a very core principle in batteries, right? So it has a lot of features, like it is basically the major safety part. It is major brain of how you control the battery. So battery management system design involves thermal design, it involves electrical circuitry. So whatever you have studied in your bachelor's is going to get implemented in this. So BMS is something where a lot of opportunities are there, and not many people in India have cracked a BMS which is built by themselves, which can work in any temperature ranges, which can work in any load ranges. So coming to motors, so we still are dependent on China for motors, basically the kind of magnets that we are dependent on from China. But lately we have in India, we try to figure out how we can build a component with frugal methods. So people have started building motors without magnets. So this is an area which is booming, and seeing the number of vehicles, EV vehicles that are growing, motor manufacturing plus motor design is going to be a very key role, will play a very key role on the electronic side. Then comes to the software side. In software, you will feel that, okay, the computer science is not connected to automobile industry, but unfortunately, everything that a BMS works on, the protocols, the communication protocols, everything is dependent on a software. And even the kind of, say, vehicle-to-vehicle kind of communications that we do requires a software engineer's intervention. So then comes chemistry, right? So unfortunately, we have not started fundamental research in batteries or cell-level research. But lately, there are a lot of chemistries that have changed the performance of batteries, from lithium titanate to lithium iron phosphate. So lithium iron phosphate was the first one. So now we are at lithium titanate, where we can charge it at 20 times faster than the previous lithium chemistries. So a chemical engineer has a lot to do here, and the kind of performance levels we are expecting. So we want a lighter battery. We want the battery to give more energy density. So these are things that a chemical engineer can look at. So why I am saying all this is, like, there is no engineering discipline which is not touched by EV. And this is where the campuses like yours and people like you should come forward to be part of this revolution. So it is not, you are not going to gain experience after 10 years in the industry. You are going to right away work on something which you will see in the market immediately. So that is the opportunity that EV provides. In a traditional industry, it will take 5 years, 6 years for you to build a product. So we have seen students building vehicles in 1 year, 2 years, building it to the market. So I run a EV as a startup company which builds electric vehicles and uses, so we do end-to-end, from building the vehicles to putting it to service and financing the EV. So completely touching from product to services. So we started in a campus with interns who were able to build our first prototype in maybe 6 months to 1 year time. So we had a lot of interns, and those interns with 1 year, 2 year experience have grown into a full-fledged engineer, senior engineers in 2 years, 3 years time, which you will not see in a traditional industry happening. So you will have, say, 15 years to get to that knowledge level. Why? Because the EV industry is very nascent. The knowledge is there. People who have curiosity, people who wants to find things out, go deep into things and then get it done. So that is where I want all of you to think about what you want to do in EV industry. Every one of you has something to do, but if you have the right curiosity and you have the right path towards, so you'll have a lot of mentors. You need to start discussions. You need to have, say, late night. I think you will have all innovation centers here in most of the campuses. You need to start spending time on innovation centers. You need to start breaking things. So you need to start building and breaking things, then only things will improve. Then only you can build something in EV. Because even to the likes of Tata, they have not mastered the EV vehicle, say, technology as such. Because everyone is learning. It's very new. For larger players, it is a shift from whatever they have been doing to a new paradigm. But for all of you, you're fresh. You can start off directly with EV technology. And then you all have the right knowledge base right now with whatever courses you have done in the campus. But how to direct it and what opportunities you get into, that is what matters. So with this, I would like to conclude my speech. So I also want to tell you upfront that so we are hiring a lot of you guys. So we want to work with youngsters like you. So whoever wants to have a flavor, need a flavor of EV, you can reach out to us. So the company name is Pibeam Electric. So you can go to our LinkedIn profile, start reaching out to our HR. So we are very happy to work with you guys. We have some interesting projects coming up as well. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for all the three speakers. If there is any questions, please feel free to give your slip to our volunteers nearby who will collect it, and it will be got answered in today evening between 4:30 and 5 when we are having the closer session for the day. And by and large, all the three speakers have dealt with various options, how the various cities are growing, what opportunities are available, and how many jobs are available, and what are the sectors in which they are available. Just not think it is an electrical vehicle, it is not just an electrical engineering alone. They have said for everybody, including chemical engineering, including every mining, every sector requires this kind of engineers for this sector to grow. And since this is a very specific green area, and everybody is interested to see to it that e-vehicle gets popularized, because we need not be depending on the fossil fuel, and we'll be environmentally friendly, and it may become economically operative also when the large number of vehicles are on the road. I think with this, we have already run the time enough. Thank you very much for this session. You can give your paper, whatever you want to raise questions. We'll get it answered, and we'll also answer them. Thank you very much. I think we adjourn for the lunch. The next session will start at 1:45. Thank you.